Hi, I'm Jen Lee, head of marketing at The Bump. This is Reclaiming Your Power, our series dedicated to highlighting thought leaders and experts who are helping Black families navigate the maternal mortality crisis. It is such a pleasure to be joined by Hannah Bronfman. She's an activist, author, angel investor, founder of HBFIT, and an on-air personality. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation.
I'm so honored to be here.
So I just want to jump right in. You are a new-ish parent, a new-ish mom, and talking about that little period right after you give birth. We refer to it as the fourth trimester. It's those first 12 weeks after baby arrives. What was that like with you with your first? Was it as you expected? Take me back there. I'd love to hear a little bit about your experience.
Sure. Going back to the fourth trimester with Preston, you know, again, it was a pandemic. It felt like, all the new feels. It was totally a safe bubble to experience all of that. And I have to say, the fourth trimester definitely came with some emotional challenges, but for the most part, it was very surreal. It felt like I had been anticipating meeting this baby for so long, and he was finally here with us, and we were really present. And, I think, my breastfeeding journey ended up being quite enjoyable, I have to say, in the beginning. Um, I don't think the issues that came with breastfeeding definitely came later than the, post fourth trimester. And I really just honestly took it easy. Like I didn't feel pressure to, start working out or doing anything. I really just kind of listened to my body. I really tried to take advantage of the fact that, I had the time to cook and do all of those things that you kind of can do with one child, really. We'll see how that goes second time around. But, I did have an amazing baby nurse who kind of helped guide me through, just those early days of, bathing Preston, getting him to sleep. And honestly, he was a big sleeper. I mean, I think people kind of forget, they always say like, get ready to never have your sleep back. But, babies like for the first 6 months are pretty much always asleep. I mean, I actually remember having to consciously like wake Preston up to get him on the boob. Like I remember I would like little splash him with a little bit of water, like tickle him and all the things. He was like such a sleepy baby. And it was just a really joyful time, especially, I think visualization played a huge role in my pregnancy last time around. I had a lot of anxiety during my pregnancy with Preston. There was obviously a lot of violence happening to the Black community. There was, a lot of stories around death with Black birthing people. And, I'd had to constantly like visualize myself not becoming a statistic.
Yeah.
And I've continued to visualize throughout this entire process. But I have to say, like, I don't know, I feel now knowing that I had a birth without complications, I feel very confident that I can manifest that again. And I don't have as much anxiety this time around as I did last time. Also, it took us a long time to get pregnant. So, when you've struggled so much to get to a place, you kind of are, holding your breath a bit, until you finally meet this person. And so I don't have as much of that this time around either.
Yeah, no, there's certainly a comfort in at least knowing the road that you're going on, and
Yeah.
Congrats to getting to this stage. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. And how did you know you wanted to have another? Was that something that you and your husband always planned for, or was it sort of after Preston came, you were like, we could do this again?
No, we definitely knew we wanted to have more than one kid. I'm from a pretty large family. Brendan is one of two kids. So he thinks two is a great number. So I was like, well, let's get to two, and then we can figure out what happens after that.
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough to have a pretty successful IVF journey. I think financially, logistically, those are practical things that we do really think about in terms of family planning. So we'll see. We're so excited for this new arrival and to watch Preston become a big brother. Um, so we'll see how it goes after that.
How did you know, or even rather, how did you approach making sure you were working with a culturally sensitive healthcare team, especially in light of the maternal mortality crisis and the sort of adverse statistics that we're hearing about Black women, dying in childbirth? What was your approach
Yeah.
to that?
So I absolutely loved my OB, and she is AARP, and I felt so comfortable with her, and she really listened to me during my birth with Preston. I told her months leading into it, you're not going to let me become a statistic. She was like, we are doing this. You're having a vaginal birth. Preston is, in the great position. We're going to work through this. And I ended up having to be induced, and I was still able to have a vaginal birth, which was really, really important to me. But this time around, like I just said, I'm unclear if this is going to be my last kid or not. And I wanted a different experience because, people say that with the second, they can come earlier, meaning hopefully my body will go into labor naturally and I won't have to be induced. And for that experience, I am looking for a more holistic approach. Being induced has, some perks, whatever, but it's very much a hospital experience, right? Like it was a 24-hour. I also had GBS in my last pregnancy, so I ended up having to have antibiotics during my labor. So there was really no getting around this straightforward hospital setting.
Yeah.
And what I'm really hoping for is that, this time around, my body goes into labor naturally. I get to labor at home a little bit with my husband and my doula. And what I really was hoping for, even though, I feel like we are conditioned to have hospital births, even though we are seeing that there are really horrifying, scary outcomes that are happening in hospitals. But at the same time, I am not ready for a home birth. I think I have a lot of fear around. I don't know. I don't want to take the risk, especially because, again, it took us so long to get here. So for me, I thought, okay, what's going to be the best of both worlds? And that really is having a midwife deliver me in a hospital. And so that is what I'm going for. I found a practice that I'm so excited to be working with called ULA, and they are collaborative care, meaning that they are mostly midwives, but they do have OBs as well, and they specialize in low risk births. They deliver at Mount Sinai West, and they're covered by insurance.
That sounds like lightning struck.
Literally.
That's
Literally.
incredible.
So
That's
I was
incredible.
also really excited to work with them. I also, as a storyteller by trade and
Yeah.
and a content creator, I didn't get to talk or create that much content around my birth with Preston because,
Yeah.
we were in a pandemic. It was a different thing. And now, in light of what is going on with this maternal mortality crisis, there are some solutions that have been, coming to light. And I think ULA is one of those solutions. We know that midwives are part of the solution. So I'm really excited to be working with them, to, have my midwife deliver and just all the things. So that's kind of what I'm, last time around I was like, I'm not going to have a birth plan, you know, and then I ended up having to be induced, right? So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm going to follow my OB's lead, etc. And now this time around, you know, that what I just described is my birth plan. The
Yeah.
smaller things in between, like epidural, no epidural, I don't know. We'll see how I feel. But I am just manifesting going into labor naturally and laboring at home for a little bit, and then my midwife delivering this baby. And that is the overarching goal. And hopefully, there's some beautiful moments in between.
That is awesome, and keep visualizing because I think there's such power in it. One of the conversations that we've been having is around collaboration, and you mentioned that ULA is collaborative care. I mean, that's just it. How can medical professionals, midwives, doulas, all work together to really make sure that mom and the birthing person has the experience that they should have, and it should never be traumatic. It could be difficult, but it should never be traumatic, and you should feel supported and confident throughout. So I'm really excited for you. That sounds fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'd love to shift gears a little bit. You are a content creator, one that I've been following for many, many years. And I mean, truly, your approach to a healthy lifestyle, how you nourish yourself, how you keep yourself moving is really inspiring. So I'm curious, how does that shift when you're pregnant? Are you able to maintain it?
Yeah,
How do you go about that?
I'm definitely trying to consistently work out. I've found it to be difficult, only because like work is really crazy. Life with a toddler. My weekends, for instance, I don't work out on the weekends because I'm really trying to spend that time with Preston, especially because I don't work from home. I have an office. I go there almost every day. Preston's also in like his classes, and he's like got his own little, he's his own little like human now. So really those weekends are important to me, and I'm trying to just work out maybe like 3 times a week. Definitely choosing to walk more places around the city when it's not absolutely freezing. And even if I like have 30, 45 minutes, maybe I can get myself to the gym and just walk on a treadmill. Um, but not going overly ambitious this time around. I feel very comfortable in my skin. I feel very strong. I feel like prior to this pregnancy, I was in a really great place. Physically, I felt like very strong and comfortable. And, I think that when you kind of are coming from a strong foundation, that it's not about pushing yourself during this time, right? It's really about being gentle and being mindful and listening to your body. So I'm just kind of like leaning into that in terms of my exercise. And then in terms of nutrition, I had zero cravings with Preston, and I have so many cravings this time around. It's wild.
Yeah.
I have been eating so much tinned fish. I can't even tell you. Like I'm going to turn
Wait,
into a sardine.
what is that? Oh, like literally fish that comes in a tin?
Literally fish that comes in a tin. I mean, mackerel, trout, sardines, salmon.
Oh, wow.
I can't get enough. And I've been eating dried like mangoes by the
Mhm.
pound. And I'm just now moving into the third trimester. I'm really just focused on like trying to just eat a really good amount of protein,
Yeah.
and a really good mix of protein, carbs, and fat, right? Just
Yeah.
really like balanced meals. And, you know, it's funny, my husband, yeah, I guess like my husband's always like coming to the house and he's like, what is that insane smell? I'm like, oh, just me having my sardines again. Like, a few other things that I'm doing to kind of really take care of my well-being is try and prioritize acupuncture, and as well as I have this woman who is a PT who does like a mix between like physical therapy and prenatal massage. And it's been really powerful. I mean, I totally believe in the power of touch, and that is like kind of my happy place. And so I try to make that a priority and go maybe every 2 weeks or something.
No, that's very cool. And so you mentioned the content that you're creating, and are you sharing this with your audience on your
Yeah,
platform? These
yeah,
moments?
absolutely. I've been sharing a lot around my nutrition, my workouts, my cravings. Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
mention, so random. I hardly ever eat tofu, and I have been craving tofu during this pregnancy. So I've like done a couple different tofu recipes that I put on the gram, and I've also been talking a lot about the maternal health crisis, but also creating safe spaces for ourselves. I've done a couple TikToks on that, and how to like conserve your energy, and
Yeah.
how to when you're being approached by someone who wants to share something traumatic, because that happens a lot.
Yeah.
People really do want to share their experiences, and while I think that's so therapeutic and really important, there's also a time and a place that you need to be in order to receive something like that.
Yeah.
And there's also a fine line of being informed and you know protecting your own mental and emotional um, availability. So,
Yeah. That is, I love that you bring that up, and it's something that we, as the bump, what we think about all the time. I mean, we are serving an audience from those who are trying to conceive, those that are pregnant, and sort of in those early days of parenthood. And there's an imperative to share information and educate folks, and especially around this topic for women of color, birthing people of color. But also, we don't want to sap all the joy
of
out
course
of what's
not.
happening,
Right.
and there's also celebration in it. So there's always like that fine line of how
Yeah.
you educate but and empower and share information at the right time. So that is such a critical point. But on that note, you have chosen to proactively use your very powerful platform to be an advocate for Black maternal health. Why was that important for you?
Um, it was important to me for several reasons. I think I was so shocked and taken aback when I first learned in 2020 about these statistics, especially also being pregnant. And then I was hearing about really scary stories that were happening to women um, around kind of BLM and in their pregnancies. There was a story about a woman named Emerald Black. I won't go into the story. You can Google it on your own, but it really like shook me to the core. And um, as someone who has a platform, I truly believe that I have a responsibility to educate and share and acknowledge, social unjust, and healthcare inequities, and it just felt like a very natural thing for me to discuss and comment on, and actively kind of work in that space. Now, I've invested in several different like femtech companies, and I'm constantly trying to create partnerships for some of those brands. For instance, I did the Meals for Mamas with Territory Foods to really, focus on postpartum and prenatal nutrition. And, for a couple of months, we had, proceeds going to certain organizations, or we're making connections with certain doula programs who are maybe like rooted more in community doulaism. And It's just important because our healthcare system has to do better. I mean, it's failing us in so many different ways, you know, between reproductive rights as well as this maternal health crisis. Like, you know, we are literally considered a third world country when it comes to the outcomes of our women. And that's
Shocking.
like really just, it's honestly just disgusting. It's crazy. And, you know, I've tried to advocate, even, you know, through working with the White House and the HHS. And, um, you know, it's just, there's so much work that needs to be done. It's honestly crazy. And, I feel, just called to, you know, use my platform to be able to speak on these topics, especially as a Black birthing woman, who lives in New York State. Which, you know, a lot of people will say, "Oh, you live in New York State, you have access to so much more." But I will remind people that New York State has 12 times more likely of a death outcome than the rest of the country,
Yeah.
and that is outrageous. Um,
Outrageous, shocking. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just
it's
I mean it's really, and at the end of the day I feel like, you know, my platform reaches a pretty multicultural community. And if anything is really going to change, the story that is happening to Black women cannot just be told by Black women. We need allies and advocates, and if I can help reach another community, you know, we're doing something, you know, like at least one more person knows, at least my story helped one more person be able to advocate for themselves, you know. So that's kind of just how I put it in perspective.
Yeah, Hannah, thank you for sharing that, sharing a little bit more about what motivates you to do this work alongside all of the other things that you're doing. It is important because people like you give voice to the voiceless. It might make one woman that day ask her doctor some tough questions that
Hmm.
perhaps maybe she wouldn't have proactively asked. And it really takes all of us collectively, those who it's impacting directly are the allies, to all come together and figure out how are we going to solve this. I have a friend, Charles Johnson, who sadly lost his wife due to this crisis. And, you know, his whole thing is if we can solve this for Black moms, we can solve it for everyone. So it
Hmm.
is really, really critical that we take care of ourselves and each other in this whole process.
100%.
So, Hannah, you are also a big time investor and have chosen a couple of companies intentionally to support. So, I'd love to hear a little bit more about some of those partnerships and why you've decided to support them and how they play a role in the maternal sort of pregnancy or parenting space.
Yeah, so when I started investing, I really was focused on consumer products, but then going through my own, you know, fertility journey, I really started looking at companies that were playing a large role in maternal health, especially without any resources at hand, and being able to go out to my community, etc. You know, I had my Poppy Tribe. They are a telehealth brand, and company that really put together a mix of doulas, nurses, lactation consultants, and I really consulted them a lot around my breastfeeding journey. And I also ended up investing and working with Bobby, which is an awesome formula company. And I feel very strongly about fed is best. You know, if you are able to breastfeed, that is amazing, but it is a full-time job. And we know that this country really does not allow for the support that is necessary to really uplift women in the um, annoyingly the narrative that is constantly pushed that breastfeeding is best, especially up until 6 months. It's like, you know, there is no national paid leave in America, right? So most women are going back to work after 4 weeks. You know, even if you are a woman who has the privilege of being able to breastfeed for a long period of time, there are so many different complications that arise. There's 101 different reasons as to why your breastfeeding journey does not go according to plan. And so really excited to be working with Bobby. And then, yeah, I mean, I've also invested in Kindbody, which is an incredible fertility clinic that allows you to do kind of all of your family planning services, whether it's freezing your eggs or just going in for a checkup to see where your fertility is at. It's used to be really inaccessible to freeze your eggs or to go through IVF, and they are bringing those costs down by investing in their own tech, as well as hopefully getting them under insurance from your corporate provider. So the world of femtech is incredible, and it's a new angle for me in terms of my investments that has really brought me so much joy to get involved in, because also, because I have a platform, I am able to speak about these companies and weave them into my narratives, because they're all products that I actually believe in and use. And yeah, it's a pretty cool journey to be on. I have to say, the world of angel investing is very rewarding when you're investing in minority founders that are really like creating products and platforms that are making the world a better place.
So with that, Hannah, I am so grateful for you sharing your experience with us. I think this sort of storytelling and sharing really is helped support all of us. No two pregnancies, no two births are the same. However, the more we can kind of hear and learn and share amongst each other, the sort of better the whole journey can be. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. This was amazing chat.
Thank you so much for joining us for Reclaiming Your Power. Please continue to follow The Bump and visit the Black Maternal Health Hub for more helpful resources.